Hello there, and welcome to A Film a Day with me, Jordan Woodley. Over the course of this show, I have extensively talked about the camera as voyeur. The camera not just as a passive observer, but as a almost practical character within the narratives in which we participate. I've not seen, I think, at least during the time that I've been doing this series, a film that encapsulates that better than Rachel getting married. There's something so intrusive about the nature of the camera, where it switches from almost feeling, I suppose, three perspectives. One, almost as though a home movie is being made, as one would during a wedding. The other being almost documentarian, where though the camera is present, it's more capturing the moment, but more for sort of archival purposes. But then, as I say, there is this character aspect of it, almost as though we, as the audience, are somehow involved and actively influencing the events that are being presented to us through the film. Jonathan Demme's style in this is, the wedding setting is almost ideal in the respect of, and I've talked about this with other wedding films, wedding is a great setting because the structure, pacing, and roles within a wedding are already preset. And unfortunately, often we get the opposite, where because those things are already in place, it kind of gives filmmakers and performers the permission to almost fall into traditional roles and traditional formulas within storytelling. But the fact that you have the wedding as this structural preset means you also have the capacity to be incredibly experimental where the opportunities presented. So, for instance, with the recent Andy Samberg film, the name has gone out of Palm Springs. The fact that it is set around a wedding and a time loop meant that there was a great flexibility in what could be done with the characters, whilst at the same time falling back on the familiarity of the repeating setting again and again and again. Here, the beauty of this is the fact that we know how a wedding should be paced, structured, what people are supposed to do, and yet the fact that our protagonist is a deeply troubled, traumatized, recovering drug addict, the fact that it's a family fractured by trauma and by tragedies that can never be resolved from their past, and it's very much about the unspoken and the things that people want to say, people are actively saying, and yet are unable to communicate. The fact that the camera, the audience, is a participant in that in some ways makes us feel like a guest at that wedding. And as we learn more and more about the characters, about Anne Hathaway's character, about Rachel herself, who is not your protagonist, who is the sister of the protagonist, played by Rosemary DeWitt, you get the sense of, we're learning, and we're, I suppose, adapting to our circumstances. We feel as though we've come in with no real perspective, but partway through, we feel educated by what we're seeing around us, by the characters, by their stories, and yet the powerlessness of the situation, which of course mirrors almost the powerlessness of Rachel trying to control, trying to have this wonderful day, and yet at the same time, having family members who are very much on the precipice of breaking point, and particularly her sister Kim. The powerlessness of Kim herself, the fact that she has this tragedy, this event that she caused in her life that she can never take back, and the fact that even though she is trying to make positive steps, there is this overwhelming sense of tragedy to her. Again, a theme I've talked about ad nauseum. The idea of a character, is tragedy inevitable? And the thing about this film is the fact that we don't know. We're left not knowing. Because we're only given the framework of the wedding, because we start the film with Kim leaving the rehab centre, going straight to the wedding, but we only stay with her for as long as the wedding happens. As soon as she leaves the wedding, her fate beyond that is outside of our perception. And so you have that sense of, is her story a tragic one where she can never get away from her demons and from her her previous actions, and it extends to Paul, their father, and Carol, their mother. Is that right? Can't remember. Their father and mother, who both are people who are deeply traumatized and affected by just as much by everything that has happened as the sisters are, but in different ways. And the beauty of the nature of this film is the fact that the characters, you observe the microaggressions, the ways that people are trying to express themselves, the ways that they are unable to express themselves in quite rich layers. And because it's almost documentary style, you get that sense of, we're not going to get the whole story, we're not going to get all the dramatic beats and moments that a conventional narrative would give us. It's just, we will have to extrapolate from the smaller moments between characters, the smaller and the bigger moments between characters. Another thing this film is incredibly well known for, or this film is well known for, is the use of diegetic music, and the fact that the entire soundtrack is diegetic, or insofar as every time we hear music within the narrative, it is the band playing either at a distance or actively within events nearing the characters. And again, it gives it this naturalistic feel. And as I said about the lens, about the cinematography, about the music, about the performances, there is this naturalistic style to it where, and I suppose that's where the documentarian element or documentary element comes in, is you're simply observing a window into people's lives, and you will get the bigger story of what their lives have been and what their lives could be, but it is only a window, and it's all based on their relationships here and now. And I think that's an incredibly challenging, experimental, and yet at the same time profound way to present this kind of story. It is a very unconventional wedding story, insofar as I've said, a lot of films set or about weddings fall into these archetypical plot beats. And yet here, this film almost is challenging you. I mean, even in the style of the wedding, and the fact that the wedding is very unconventional from what people would expect weddings to be, and yet that almost gives it more of a realism, that it's not a Hollywood wedding, it's not a traditional style of wedding within film or within general standard culture, that this is much more personalised and much more rich for sort of fleshing out character and personality. This is such a layered and interesting film that I'm definitely going to be thinking about it, and it's definitely something I'd want to revisit again and again to try and sort of get the sense of, this is a filmmaker's film for people who want to see different styles told within and different structures represented. This is a genuinely fascinating film. Anyway, thank you for joining me. If you like this video, hit the like button, comment below and share the video because it's all helping in the algorithm. Subscribe to the channel and hit that bell to get notifications of when new videos are uploaded. Check out my back catalogue of over 200 videos and follow me on Twitter at Jordan_Woodley, where I tweet about TV shows and films, and I share these videos once they're uploaded to YouTube, either the day of or the day after. Thank you for joining me. Take care.